While the world told women to stay silent, one community told them to speak. That community was Oneida. In the 1840s, with the rise of religious experimentation, John Humphrey Noyes was inspired to create a society different from the rest, a utopian community that went beyond traditional social structures. In a time when women had no political voice, women in the Oneida community were granted rights and opportunities not available to them elsewhere, giving them a greater voice and more equality. They shared mutual responsibilities with the men in various forms of work and leadership roles, allowing them to break free from the domestic sphere that confined them. While challenges prevented the community from achieving longevity, they left a lasting impact on discussions about gender equality. In the 19th century, marriage was not just a romantic union between two people. Women and men united by marriage were delegated to separate spheres. Women were in the domestic sphere as housewives and mothers. Men occupied the public sphere, went out to work, and were allowed to participate in politics. Under coverture, women lost legal rights and were seen as subservient. In the early decades of the 19th century, America entered a period of social and religious experimentation. The Second Great Awakening revealed that people longed for spiritual direction, and it brought forth the idea that individuals had the power to choose the course of their spiritual life. Women took part in revival preaching as it brought them strength and purpose. Figures like Phoebe Palmer argued that women have the right and responsibility to preach the gospel. This religious revival also encouraged social activism, especially among women in the Northeast and Midwest. Seneca Falls in the burned-over district of upstate New York hosted the 1848 Women's Rights Convention, where women spoke out against long-standing injustices. These social changes inspired new communal experiments. Utopians and millennialists developed communities whose goal was to rid society of its evils. The Oneida community combined these ideals of equality and empowerment. In 1848, John Humphrey Noyes created the Oneida community, a religiously based perfectionist community. The community's principles were derived from religious ideals that believed men and women were equal in God's eyes. Based on his understanding of the Bible, Noyes believed that if one's heart is fully devoted to God, then one will be free of sin, similar to the saints in heaven. He concluded that the outside world's major sin was selfishness, which was tied to two institutions: exclusive marriage, which made women slaves, and private ownership of wealth, which rewarded greed. He sought to abolish both for true communion with God. One of the first ways the community promoted equality for women was in the practice of complex marriage, introduced in January 1846. First, complex marriages made women equal partners, which was not the case legally at that time. It also eliminated the common practice of women being involuntarily entered into marriage due to political, economic, or social pressures. The rights that the women had within this utopia were not found outside of their community and allowed them more opportunities. I have taken pleasure in conquering difficulties in doing things which once would have appeared impossible for me. Harriet Ann Holton Noyes. Another way women were more liberated was through their clothing. Women's clothing was often a restraint on their activities. The traditional attire of the time, corsets, crinolines, and bustiers, was highly confining. Gowns operated as shackles. They took the liberty to dress themselves in short gowns or frocks, breaking free from Victorian dress codes. In addition, all the Oneida women bobbed their hair because short hair was more logical, as it was practical and saved time spent on hairstyling. Additionally, women were freed from sole responsibility for child rearing. At 12 to 18 months, children became the mutual responsibility of the community. This system had many benefits, but most importantly, the women were free to pursue other projects and had more time for self-improvement or leisure pursuits. Alice Ackley, a community mother, stated, I appreciate the opportunity community responsibility for child rearing affords me of not only joining in public work, but of self-improvement and going home to God every day. The community implemented a system of work rotation, freeing women from domestic roles. While women held responsibilities that were essential to the community's daily functioning, no one was forced into a job more or less permanently. Instead, men and women rotated in and out of jobs. More importantly, there was a job rotation across gender lines. Men did traditionally women's work and women did men's work. Men worked in the kitchen and the laundry while women participated in light manufacturing, publishing, and accounting. While certain jobs remained divided along gender lines, for example, clothes making and darning for women and heavy-duty manufacturing for men, women participated in a wide range of community work. Many women also held important managerial positions. They had their own organization for the management of their particular departments of business. The community's governance included 21 standing committees and 48 administrative departments, covering nearly every aspect of daily life. These departments ensured that the community operated smoothly. Women served alongside men in these governing bodies. To give women authority over their reproductive decisions and avoid unwanted pregnancies, the men were responsible for practicing what they termed male continence, a form of birth control. For women, this meant they were not under the sexual domination of men. Their sexual satisfaction was emphasized over the male, and they were not responsible for birth control. Even by today's standards, this can be seen as progressive for women. While men and women in the community were enjoying the utopia, Oneida had its critics. After the Civil War, conservative critics, including Presbyterian minister John Mears, campaigned against the commune. He organized a convention of New York State ministers in 1879 to denounce it. He described Oneida as an Epicurean sty, a den of shameful immoralities, a place of corrupt concubinage, poisoned by moral defilement and vile passion. The New York Times joined in, calling Oneida's practices too obscene and revolting to even describe. From 1849 to 1879, the community stayed true to its original ideals. In 1876, leadership passed to Noyes' son, Dr. Theodore Noyes, whose authoritarian style caused internal tension. In 1879, due to hostility from surrounding communities, Noyes abolished complex marriage. Many members quickly got married but struggled to adjust to conventional lifestyles. Furthermore, the community faced episodic ridicule by the public for its shameful immoralities and impure and shocking practice. By January 1881, Oneida officially transitioned into a business called Oneida Community Limited, ending the religious communal living experiment. Women in leadership lost their authority and were now expected to marry traditionally, with little say in reproductive decisions and the expectation to bear children according to their husband's wishes. While women were forced to return to traditional gender roles, many were unwilling to let go of the freedoms they had obtained. They joined the expanding suffrage movement, becoming major advocates for women's political rights and ongoing social reforms. Hope Emily Allen founded the Oneida and Kenwood Women's Suffrage Club and spent her time educating other women about suffrage and other social issues. Eleanor Kellogg Herrick was the first woman to serve on the Board of Supervisors in Madison County, was chairman of the Welfare Committee, and regional director of the National Labor Relations Board. The Oneida community had encouraged women's involvement and decision-making. This community proved that women were capable of responsibilities beyond domestic roles. Oneida's ideas continued to influence movements for equality, freedom, and modern views on family life. They challenged traditional ideas about how society should operate and set an example of gender equality, influencing later social movements. The progress they made showed that women were capable of much more than society expected. inspiring future generations to fight for equality.